The tragic truth behind Bill Russell's death isn't what you think. Yes, basketball's greatest winner died at 88, but the real tragedy was what he endured while alive. Imagine being the most successful athlete in team sports history, winning 11 NBA championships in 13 seasons, yet having your own fans hurl racial slurs at you during games. Picture coming home to find vandals had broken into your house, smashed your trophies, spray-painted hate on your walls, and defecated in your bed. This was Bill Russell's reality. But here's the truth nobody talks about. His story isn't one of tragedy. It's the ultimate victory of an uncompromising man who refused to let racism break his spirit. Bill Russell's strength wasn't forged on basketball courts. It was built in the crucible of the Jim Crow South. Born in Monroe, Louisiana in 1934, Russell witnessed firsthand how his parents, Charlie and Katie, were treated with disrespect solely because of their skin color. These early experiences taught him that external validation from white society was unreliable and often laced with prejudice. When Russell was 10, his father moved the family to Oakland, California, searching for better opportunities. But the Russells quickly discovered that racism wasn't just a Southern problem. In Oakland, teenage Russell was routinely harassed by police officers who subjected him to racial epithets in the streets. Russell's parents shaped his character during these difficult years. His mother, Katie, who died when he was 12, was his biggest advocate, relentlessly pushing him to work hard and instilling a formidable sense of self-respect. His father, Charlie, taught him a crucial survival lesson. For a black man to survive, he had to understand white men, but the reverse wasn't true. This philosophy emphasized self-reliance and independent thinking. Basketball wasn't Russell's natural calling. Athletically awkward in his youth, he was cut from his junior high school basketball team. But a pivotal moment came when Russell realized basketball was his one chance to escape poverty and racism. This realization fueled a relentless work ethic. His revolutionary decision to focus on defense, particularly shot blocking by jumping, went against conventional coaching wisdom, but showed his independent thinking. This approach led him to dominate at the University of San Francisco, where he led the Dons to consecutive NCAA championships in 1955 and 1956. When Russell joined the Boston Celtics in 1956, he became the league's first African-American superstar and immediately transformed the franchise into a dynasty. His defensive genius revolutionized basketball, making shot blocking and rebounding strategic arts that fueled the Celtics' devastating fast break. But his on-court dominance existed in constant tension with the hostile environment of Boston. Russell famously described Boston as a flea market of racism, where bigotry was both overt and subtle. During games at Boston Garden, fans who cheered his performance would simultaneously hurl racial slurs at him. Taunts like "Go back to Africa," "baboon," and "coon" were commonplace. After games, he was often verbally abused in public. The contrast was stark when compared to White star Bob Cousy, who was showered with love and acceptance that Russell, despite being the cornerstone of the team's success, was never afforded. If you're inspired by stories of people who refuse to be broken by hate, make sure to subscribe to see more content like this. The most visceral confirmation of Boston's hostility came in 1963 with the desecration of Russell's family home in Reading, Massachusetts. While Russell was away for a weekend, vandals broke into his home and unleashed a campaign of racist destruction. They smashed his trophy case, destroying symbols of his professional achievements. They spray-painted racial epithets, including the N-word, on his living room walls. In a final grotesque act of violation, they defecated in the bed he shared with his wife. This barbaric act was the culmination of a pattern of racial hatred. Earlier that year, when Russell attempted to move to a more affluent neighborhood, white residents organized a petition to prevent the seller from completing the sale to a black family. To survive and achieve greatness in such hostility, Russell developed a brilliant psychological defense mechanism. He drew a sharp distinction between the team he played for and the city he lived in. He repeatedly stated, "I played for the Boston Celtics, the institution, and the Boston Celtics, my teammates. I did not play for the city or for the fans." The Celtics represented a meritocratic sanctuary under Coach Red Auerbach. Boston represented racist fans, vandals, and discriminatory neighbors. This mental framework explains why he refused to have his jersey retired in a public ceremony, instead insisting it happen in a near-empty garden with only teammates present. But Russell's greatest victory wasn't defensive. It was his offensive strike against injustice through activism that fundamentally changed sports. In October 1961, during a preseason exhibition trip to Lexington, Kentucky, Russell witnessed his black teammates Sam Jones and Satch Sanders being refused service at a hotel coffee shop. Rather than accept this indignity, Russell immediately took leadership, organizing all 5 black players on the Celtics to boycott that night's game. He then contacted the black players on the opposing St. Louis Hawks, informing them so they could make their own decision. The Hawks' black players also chose not to play. This became the first boycott of a professional sports game over a civil rights issue. Russell consistently placed himself at the center of the civil rights struggle. In August 1963, he attended the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, standing in the crowd to hear Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. deliver his "I Have a Dream" speech. Though invited to sit on stage with event leaders, Russell respectfully declined, preferring solidarity over spotlight. 4 years later, he took a far more controversial stand at the Cleveland Summit, organized by NFL star Jim Brown. This gathering brought together prominent black athletes to support Muhammad Ali's conscientious objection to the Vietnam War draft. At a time when Ali was one of America's most reviled figures, this collective act of support was a profound risk to their careers. Russell's activism extended to dangerous, direct action. In 1963, following the assassination of civil rights leader Medgar Evers in Mississippi, Russell traveled to the state, an act of immense personal danger for a high-profile black man. There he worked with Evers's brother Charles to establish Mississippi's first integrated basketball camp, directly challenging the violent segregation of the Deep South. His appointment as player-coach of the Celtics in 1966 was itself an activist breakthrough, making him the first black head coach in any major American professional sport. Perhaps Russell's most misunderstood act of resistance was his refusal to sign autographs. In a 1964 article titled "I Owe the Public Nothing," Russell explained his philosophy with stark clarity. He argued the relationship between athlete and public was purely transactional. Fans paid to see production on the court, and he was obligated to provide it. This was a radical rejection of the expectation that black public figures should display constant gratitude and accessibility. But Russell's refusal wasn't a blanket rejection of fan interaction. Instead, he often made a counteroffer to those requesting his signature. "I don't believe in autographs. Let's have a cup of coffee instead." This brilliant tactic served as a test of true intentions. As he explained, if a fan didn't want to chat, they were probably going to sell that autograph anyway. The offer effectively weeded out those who saw his signature as a marketable commodity. More profoundly, it forced a choice. Engage with me as a human being in authentic connection, or not at all. This principled stand was widely misinterpreted by a public and media ill-equipped to understand its philosophical underpinnings. Russell was frequently labeled surly, bitter, and arrogant. The most damning evidence of this perception comes from Russell's FBI file, obtained through the Freedom of Information Act, which repeatedly described him as an arrogant Negro who won't sign autographs for white children. This official surveillance record perfectly illustrates the racist framework Russell was fighting against. Throughout his career, Russell carried dual burdens that would have crushed lesser men. While winning championships and MVP awards, he was simultaneously leading boycotts, marching for civil rights, and traveling to dangerous places like Mississippi to challenge segregation. He wasn't simply following Jackie Robinson's path of proving black athletes belonged. Russell saw himself taking the struggle to the next level. As he stated, Jackie took the fight from point A to point B, and he was determined to take it from point B to point C. Russell influenced generations of athletes after him. He directly mentored Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who consciously emulated Russell's rational, action-oriented approach to social justice. The path Russell blazed in Lexington in 1961 is the same one followed by modern athletes who boycott games or take a knee in protest of racial injustice. They are inheritors of a tradition of protest he helped legitimize. The world eventually caught up to Bill Russell's greatness. In 2011, President Barack Obama awarded Russell the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor. In his remarks, Obama celebrated him not just for his athletic prowess, but for his moral courage, stating, "Bill Russell, the man, is someone who stood up for the rights and dignity of all men." This was a belated but fitting national acknowledgement of a truth Russell had embodied his entire life. The tragic truth behind Bill Russell's death wasn't his passing at 88. It was the society that fought him at every turn while he was alive, the fans who cheered his basketball but rejected his humanity, and the system that tried to reduce him to entertainment while denying his personhood. But Russell's real story is one of complete victory over that system. His ultimate triumph wasn't measured in championship rings, though he had more than anyone. It was his lifelong successful refusal to compromise his principles or his manhood. He remains the greatest winner, not just in games won, but in the relentless fight for his own soul. Like this video if Bill Russell's uncompromising spirit inspires you, and let us know in the comments what his legacy means to you.